Welcome, everyone, including those joining us online. My name is Nicholas, and I will be your host, along with Reverend David. I'm new at this, so I will tell you a little bit about who I am, the best that I can. I am not of my body. I am the one who lives in my body. I am not of my emotions. I am the one that feels my feelings.
Let me put it up closer.
A little bit closer?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think we can hear you.
I am not of my thoughts. I am the thinker of my thoughts. Beyond, behind, and physical, emotional, mental activity is the real me, an unlimited spirit, infinite and boundless. That is who I am. We are committed to offering a safe environment for our in-chapel service. Therefore, we are following the guidelines established by the Windsor, Essex County Board of Health. Masks are required to be worn correctly while inside. Directional arrows are placed in the aisles for traffic flow, and seating signs have been placed in the pews for maintaining a 2-meter distances. You may sit next to people you came with. In the community room there, where refreshments are being served after the service, masks can be removed to eat and drink. And please maintain the 2-meter physical distancing from those who you did not arrive with. You're next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everyone. And so glad to have all of you here. And isn't this beautiful? So over this week, our head elf, Chuck Smith, Chuck came in and did all of this, and he had some other elves that were helping him. We had animation. Anime, tell me your name. Spanowski. Okay. I very seldom ever call her by her first name, which is probably, you can tell why. Anyway, thank you so much, Anna Mae, for being part of this. And then Dan Millen was also part of this, doing so much. And then also Bobby Jo Holly, she was here also helping. So just give them a really big hand. I think they did really a gorgeous, beautiful job, and it just looked. Aren't you in the mood for Christmas now? Okay, and so we do have Nicholas King here today. He's helping us out with platforming. So I'm very, very happy to have you here, Nicholas, and helping us out. It's really appreciated.
I'm glad to be here.
Good.
Although I am a little bit nervous.
That'll pass. Let me tell you. And also I'm so grateful to have Mike Karloff and Angelica Shaka here. Again, I just love your voice, Angelica. And Mike, you're wonderful. What more can I say? So anyway, we are in a mode of gratitude right now. And so today is, as you know, we're entering into our second week of Advent. And so every Christmas season, we like to light the Advent candles and talk a little bit about it. This white candle here, if you come into our sanctuary any Sunday, you will find one white candle that's lit. And that white candle represents the Christ consciousness. That part of us, every one of us, each and every one of us has this Christ consciousness within us. It is that part of us that knows that we are one with Spirit, that we are one with each other, that we are one with all of life. So this light is that light of God that dwells within each and every one of us. And our first week of Advent was last week, and we lit our first candle, and it represents faith and hope. And so I'm going to light that candle again. We lit it last week. So last week's theme was hope and faith. This week's theme is for this whole week of the second week of Advent. Our theme is peace. So I light this candle. It represents peace. So I invite you to, at this moment, to just take a moment and let's open in prayer. So I invite you to close your eyes if you wish. And just realize that this whole time of Advent is a time to meditate, a time for reflection, a time to ponder the meaning of Christmas. And for this week, we are opening our hearts and our minds to the peace that is always here with us. So I invite you right now just to feel that peace that is at the very core of your being. So we recognize right now and celebrate that peace that we are given in our minds and our hearts when in faith we recognize and turn to the Christ consciousness within us. And we look forward to the promised day when nations will live together in peace, and when we learn not about war, but about the truth of our oneness. And just as a transformed world can only be brought about by transformed individuals, a world at peace will only be brought about by a people at peace with themselves. So we open our hearts and minds to that peace. We tap into that peace, and so it is. Amen.
Our prayer chaplain for this week is Lucy Kroger. Yeah. Lucy,
No.
Stand up.
Actually, it's
Actually,
Monica today.
now
We had a
today
little
it's
change.
Monica.
Monica, yeah. So Monica is our prayer chaplain today, and she will be available to pray with you after the service. So if anyone is looking for prayer, please feel free to. She'll be here in the chapel, sitting somewhere, and just feel free to come and ask her, and she will be just delighted to pray with you. We also have a prayer box up here that's always here. So we do invite you to, if you have any prayer requests, we invite you to go ahead and write your prayer request down and place it in the box. And then our prayer chaplain team will pray with you about whatever the prayer is that you have put in there. We will hold that in prayer for you.
And for those of you who are here and or online, there is a 24/7 prayer support with Silent Unity. The phone number is 1-811-969-2000.
And Mike, we've got some music now.
We do. Please stand. Being the second Sunday of Advent, the theme is peace. So the first song is Make Me a Channel of Your Peace.
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your healing power. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Oh, Spirit, grant
please remain standing for the second song. This is a seasonal favorite here at Unity of Windsor. What a glorious, glorious day.
What a glorious, glorious day. Christ within us is born. What a beautiful gift of God's grace, awakening now on this morn. Can you imagine a bright starry night on the outskirts of Bethlehem? Tucked away in a manger, the Christ child is born to bring life to all people again. What a glorious, glorious day. Christ within us is born. What a beautiful gift of God's grace, awakening now on this morn. For the angels are singing a new song of hope as their heavenly music is heard, and their hearts sing the song of the coming of Christ and the dawning of peace on earth. What a glorious, glorious day. Christ within us is born. What a beautiful gift of God's grace, awakening now on this morn. O holy child of Bethlehem, be born in us today. O come, our Lord Emmanuel, as the heavenly host proclaim. What a glorious, glorious day. Christ within us is born. What a beautiful gift of God's grace, awakening now on this morn.
One more time.
What a glorious, glorious day. Christ within us is born. What a beautiful gift of God's grace, awakening now on this morn.
Thank you, and you may be seated.
This Christmas season, we join with thousands of other spiritual communities around the world who take this time to honor a man named Jesus, who was born over 2,000 years ago.
For those of us in unity, Jesus is not the great exception. He is the great example. He was a man who realized that he was not a human being having a spiritual experience, but rather a spiritual being having a human experience. He was deeply in touch with his divinity, and he lived his life from that awareness while here on earth. And as a result, he changed the world.
All of us are inherently human and divine. The same mind that was in Jesus is in each and every one of us. We are all made with the same amount of potential, and it's up to us to make choices that help us live an abundant and joyful life. Mindfully living from the awareness of our Christ's nature empowers us to the light of the world that we are meant to be.
And as a spiritual community, we come together to encourage and to support each other in our individual spiritual journeys, wherever that you might be in that process. And anyway, we are glad that you chose to join us online and to join us here.
Our theme for December is the power of life, and our affirmation for this month is, life is the infinite endowment of God, and eternal life is happening now. Would everyone repeat that with me, please?
Life is the infinite endowment of God, and the eternal life is happening now. And now we have some special music.
Peace starts as a tiny thought, a seed that's planted in my mind. And as it grows, its warmth I feel as the love of God through me begins to flow. It starts with me, a tiny seed, and radiates throughout the whole wide world. It starts with me, a seed of peace, and with it, think how bright this world would be. As I live in God's peace, it touches all the people in my life. And as we share, the Spirit grows, creating spaces that are free from strife. It starts with me, a tiny seed, and radiates throughout the whole wide world. It starts with me, a seed of peace, and with it, think how bright this world would be. Let's plant it now, this seed of peace, and send thought to everyone we know. And as it grows, this seed of peace, let's visualize it spreading around the world. It starts with me, a tiny seed, and radiates throughout the whole wide world. It starts with me, a seed of peace, and with it, think how bright this world would be. And with it, think how joyful life could be.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm back. Anyway, I'm so glad to be here. So glad to have all of you here today visiting with us. And, you know, I want you to just flash back to when you were a child. And you had Christmas gifts under the tree. Can you remember that? Can you remember the anticipation, just waiting as a child to see what was in those packages? And maybe it's been a long time for you, as it has for some of us, and so perhaps you just remember your children's children, your grandchildren, or other children opening up their presents at their birthday or at Christmas. And how, I mean, I remember how excited I was every Christmas to see what was in those packages. And I had two younger brothers, and it was 3 boys, and we were just like descend on those packages and just tear them open. And we were just so excited. So can you imagine receiving a present and not opening it? Can you imagine that? So what good is an unopened gift? It does not matter how much the giver spends on the gift, how much care he or she put into selecting it, or how beautiful they wrapped it. It's all wasted time, money, and effort if the gift remains unopened. Or what if we receive a gift and we just put it on a shelf and never use it? In both cases, the recipient of the gift has squandered the generosity of the giver. So my talk title today is The Unopened Gift, which I'm using as a metaphor for our unrecognized talents, unrealized potential, and undeveloped powers that we have. Throughout this whole year, we have been exploring Charles Fillmore's book, The 12 Powers of Man. And Fillmore defined the 12 powers as attributes, faculties, or abilities that we are born with. These 12 powers are faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, renunciation, and life. And Fillmore believed that they formed the basis of our Christ consciousness. These powers reside in each and every one of us as pure potential. The more we develop them, the closer we are to expressing the truth of who we are, our Christ nature, our divine nature. And how do we develop them? By recognizing them first and realizing that they are within us, and then calling them forth and putting them to work in our lives. Like we do to learn anything, we have to practice them by using them, by expressing them, and applying these divine ideas, these abilities that we have. Use them in the living of our life. So as we enter this Christmas season, we celebrate the birth of a man who has been called the Prince of Peace. We sing of some peace on earth and goodwill to men. And as I noted earlier, the theme this week, for this whole week, the second week of Advent, the theme is peace. Yet we find ourselves living in a world that seems to be experiencing more and more unrest. We cannot help to anytime we turn on the television or the radio, or anytime we explore the internet, we run across more and more unrest. We run across another school shooting. We hear about another terrorist attack. We read about a continuing pandemic, and we hear stories of worldwide economic, political, and social unrest. Yet in the midst of this unrest is a promise that Jesus made over 2,000 years ago. It was a gift that he offered, which I believe is just as relevant today and just as needed today as it was then. So in John 14:27, he tells his disciples this. He says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not be afraid." So what did Jesus mean when he said, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. If we are not experiencing peace, then may I suggest that it is a gift that has been given that we need to open and we need to explore. And that's what I intend to do in this talk. And I assure all of you right now that that power, the power of peace, the power to not be troubled, the power to not be afraid, is within each and every one of you. So our topic today is inner peace, or peace of mind. And we're going to explore the conditions that bring about inner peace by looking at some scripture. We'll be looking at some quotes, a couple of quotes from Charles Fillmore, one of our Unity's founders. And we're also going to be looking at a Buddhist poem called Sin Sin Ming that was written in the 6th century. We're then going to look at the greatest obstacles to inner peace by looking at what Eckhart Tolle has written in his book, The Power of Now. And then after we do that, we're going to look at 2 practices that you can use to overcome those obstacles to inner peace that Tolle writes about. And then I'm going to close with a further reading from Sin Sin Ming, and then I'm going to guide us in a meditation. So that's the agenda. But first, what did Jesus mean when he said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you"? For many people, peace can mean the absence of conflict or trouble. And this is a definition of peace. But I don't believe this is what Jesus was talking about here. We are not promised a life without problems, without conflict, without trouble. A little later in John 16:33, Jesus points out that indeed in this world we will have problems. In this world we'll have trials, we'll have tribulations. But he says, take courage because I have overcome the world. And that's a promise to us as well. So the peace that Jesus was talking about means rest, quiet, stillness in your heart and in your mind. It is not the absence of trouble, but it exists in spite of trouble. The peace that Jesus is speaking of lies at the very core of each and every one of our beings. Charles Fillmore described peace as the harmony and tranquility derived from by one's awareness of the Christ consciousness. It is awakening to the same truth that Jesus awakened to when he declared, "I and the Father are one." There is only one presence, there's only one power in the universe, and we are one with it. It is only in our minds that we separate ourselves from our source. We have never, ever been separate from Spirit. Never. It is an understanding that the same mind that was in Jesus Christ is also in us. And as we continue in our spiritual practices of prayer and meditation, we become more and more adept at accessing the peace that is within us, accessing it and living from it. It is a peace that can push through all of the disturbing circumstances that life can throw at us. It gives us the ability to endure and be calm even in the face of extreme turmoil. Our challenges here on earth are here for our growth. Without challenges in life, we would not grow in consciousness. This peace doesn't eliminate conflict or trouble, but gives us the ability to endure through it and grow in consciousness as we let our light shine out into the world. So this is a peace that the Apostle Paul described as surpassing all understanding, which in faith and with practice you can access as well and live from. So last week, again, our theme was faith, and a key component of faith is trust. In Isaiah 26:3, the prophet Isaiah says, "Those of steadfast mind you keep in peace because they trust in you." Steadfast. What is steadfast? Steadfast, the definition of steadfast is firmly fixed in place, immovable, unwavering, unfaltering, persistent, committed, dedicated, unswerving. For those whose minds are firmly fixed on the one presence and the one power, minds that are firmly fixed on the Christ within, minds that are firmly fixed on the truth of who we are, those minds are kept in peace because we trust in that one presence and one power, which is one with the Christ within us. We trust in that Christ consciousness that dwells as our very selves within us. This is the truth of who we are. And we trust in that truth, and we trust in that oneness. So let me repeat what I said earlier. Charles Fillmore describes peace as the harmony and tranquility derived from awareness of the Christ consciousness. In unity, we don't believe we have to invite Christ or God into our hearts, because a God that is everywhere present, or a spirit that is everywhere present, is already here, already there, has always been here, always been there. We are one with the one. We simply need to awake to that truth, to be aware of that truth, and to live from that truth. For Fillmore, the evidence of being aware of the Christ consciousness is tranquility, which is described as serenity, calmness, stillness, equanimity, and peace of mind. These are the gifts that come as we awaken to our Christ consciousness. And harmony is another gift as we come into agreement with and accord with that Christ consciousness, with the truth of who we are. In Revealing Word, Charles Fillmore writes, he says, the supreme realization is unity with God-mind, complete oneness with the Christ consciousness. The supreme realization is us aligning with that Christ pattern that exists within each and every one of us. So in the late 6th century, there was a poem written by a Chinese Chan or Zen master by the name of Sang San. The poem is called Sin Sin Ming. And in it, this is what he wrote. Until you understand this truth, you won't see anything clearly. One is all, and all are one. When you realize this, what reason for holiness or wisdom? The mind of absolute trust is beyond all thought, all striving, is perfectly at peace, for in it there is no yesterday, there is no tomorrow, there is no today. So Sin Sin Ming is translated as the mind of absolute trust. So like Jesus, the Chan Master sings on, is saying, take no thought for tomorrow. For the mind of absolute trust, there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, or no today. There is only now, this present moment, the only moment that truly there ever is. And this moment is as it is, always is as it is. Every prior moment has led to this moment. It's all connected. Sometimes, this moment's going to be easy. Sometimes it's going to be lovely, and other times it's going to be painful. It can be sad. It can be difficult. While many times we don't have a choice on what happens, we do always have a choice as to how we respond. We always have that choice. And responding in peace is the wisdom of one who lives in oneness, who lives from that oneness, and lives as that oneness. So, in the poem, Sang San is speaking of having an absolute trust in the great way, or the Tao. Whether we call it being, or God or Christ conscious, or Buddha nature, or Allah, or the Tao, these words are pointing to the same truth. A truth that we are part of, and a truth that we are one with. And if we place our trust in it, we are promised peace. It's hard to believe that it's been almost 25 years since Eckhart Tolle wrote his book, The Power of Now. I remember how much I loved it when I first read it. And it's one of those books that if you pick it up out of my bookshelf, it's like highlighted. I mean, it's like underlined, it's highlighted, there's checks, there's notes in the corner, and I have read it a lot. So in that book, Eckhart invites us to look inside ourselves to discover the radiant joy of being and the deep, unshakable faith that comes with it. You are being, or spirit, living and moving and having its being in and through and as you. We are one with that being, with spirit. For Tolle, enlightenment is simply your natural state of felt oneness with being or spirit. It is our inability to feel this connectedness that gives rise to the illusion of separation from yourself and from the world around you. So, Tolle tells us not to try to grasp being with our minds. And don't try to understand it. Tolle says you can know it only when the mind is still. This is something that the psalmist David knew when he wrote in Psalms, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I am God. And this is something the Fillmores, the founders of Unity, of the Unity movement, it's something that they practiced every day of their life. Every day of their life, they spent time in the silence. And it's what the prophet Isaiah is pointing to when he said, "Those of steadfast mind are kept in peace." It's something that we do every Sunday when we meet here. And hopefully it's something that you do every day at home, spending time in the silence. when you are present, when your attention is fully and intensely in the now, being, spirit can be felt. But we're never going to understand it mentally. But we can feel it. For Tolle, to regain awareness of being and to abide in that state of feeling realization, that is enlightenment. It's also pure peace. So what is the greatest obstacle to this peace? And that's what we're going to look at now. For Tolle, what keeps us from that silent truth within, what keeps us from that peace within, is our identification with our minds. We have involuntarily, we have these involuntary thought processes that are constantly going on. You know, that voice in your head that's always saying things, the continuous monologues and dialogues that are in there, that voice in your head that is like always commenting, speculating, judging, complaining, comparing, liking, disliking, and on and on and on. Tolle says the voice belongs to your conditioned mind, which is the result of all of your past history as well as the collective cultural mindset that you have inherited. As I have said before, from the moment we are born into this world, we are being programmed, being told what to think, how to believe, how to act. We're programmed by our parents, our siblings, the friends around us, by our schools that we go to, by the churches that we attend. We are being trained, and we're being trained and told how to think. That is our conditioned mind. So you see and you judge the present through the eyes of the past. We're seeing and looking out here, and we're judging everything by all of that past programming, by all of those lenses that we have been given to look out at life. Anyway, this incessant mental noise prevents us from finding that realm of inner peace, that stillness that lies within us, that stillness which is inseparable from being itself. So for Tolle, thinking has become a disease. The mind is a superb instrument, he says, if used rightly. The problem is you don't use it. It uses you. This is the disease. You believe that you are your mind, and this is the delusion. The instrument has taken over. The mind is using you. You are unconsciously identified with it. It is as if you were possessed, he says, without knowing it. You take the possessing entity to be yourself. So the beginning of freedom for Tolle is the realization that you are not this possessing entity. You are not the thinker. Knowing that, he says, allows you to observe the entity. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thinking, beyond thought. And the good news is that you can free yourself from your mind, from your little mind. You can free yourself from it. And Tolle's advice is that we start listening to those voices, listening to them, paying attention to them. so many people, all of this stuff is going on, and it's so natural that they don't even think about it, but it's going on. So listen to those voices. Pay particular attention to any repetitive thought patterns. You know, those old recordings like, I'm not good enough, or, you know, you can do better, or I'm sick, I'm not feeling, you know, I'm poor in health. All of those old ways of thinking, we need to let them go, but pay attention to them. So Tolle calls this watching the thinker, or being the witness. So when you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. Do not judge or condemn what you hear. Just listen. Be aware of it. You will soon realize there is the voice, and here I am. Here I am, the one listening. Here I am, the one watching. This I am realization, this sense of your own presence, that's not a thought. It arises from beyond your mind. And this is our Christ consciousness. That part of us that knows that we are divine, that we are spiritual beings. And it is the truth of who we are. So when you listen to a thought, you are aware not only of the thought, but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. So Tolle tells us that when this happens, a new dimension of consciousness has come in. And as you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence. You feel your deeper self. And it's behind or underneath the thought, as it were. So Tolle informs us that when this happens, the thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides, because you're no longer energizing the mind through identification with that thought. And this is the beginning of an end of involuntary compulsive thinking. When we finally recognize and realize that compulsive thinking that is going on, then we can separate from it. So Tolle goes on to explain that when a thought subsides, you experience discontinuity in the mental stream. You experience a gap of no mind. So at first, that gap is going to be short, a few seconds perhaps, but gradually those gaps will become longer. And when these gaps occur, you feel a certain stillness and peace within you. This is the beginning of your natural state of felt oneness with being, which is usually obscured by our mind and all that's going on up there. So with practice, the sense of stillness and peace will deepen. Instead of watching the thinker, Tolle also points out that you can create a gap in the mind simply by directing the focus of your attention onto the now. Focusing your attention to the now, this now moment. Just become intensely conscious of the present moment. And in this way, you draw your consciousness away from the mind activity and create a gap of no mind, where you are highly alert and aware but not thinking. Your mind is always going to be on the past, or it's going to be on the future. But this staying fully present to the present moment is truly just the essence of meditation, keeping ourselves in that present moment. So I have taught this, and I've used this a lot, a meditation technique, which I call mindfulness. And this is something that we can all do. We can all do a meditation on mindfulness, being mindful. You can be doing anything you want to be doing mindful meditation. It's really simple. If you're washing the dishes, you just pay attention to washing the dishes. Be fully present to washing your dishes. Smell the soap. Feel the warmth of the water and the suds. Feel the hardness of the dishes as you're washing them. You are being fully present. And as you are fully present in whatever it is you're doing, be fully present raking the leaves right now. Just go out and rake the leaves. Enjoy the breeze, the coolness of the air. Enjoy the smell of the earth and the leaves, the smells of the earth. Enjoy those. Take them in. Be mindful, fully present to whatever it is you are doing. And so what happens? You are training your mind to not be concentrating on something else. You cannot do two things at the same time, really. I mean, if your mind is someplace else, then you're not fully present. You are not fully present. And that's what we want to do with mindfulness training, mindfulness meditation. And it's something that we can all do, and just so simply. So that's something I would love to see you practice on a regular basis. So as I bring this message to a close, and as we prepare to enter into our meditation, I invite you to listen to these words from the poem Sense in Me one more time, or The Mind of Absolute Trust. So I do invite you to prepare for your meditation and listen to these words. For the mind in harmony with the dial, all selfishness disappears. With not even a trace of self-doubt, you can trust the universe completely. In this not two, nothing is separate, and nothing in the world is excluded. The enlightened of all times and places have entered into this truth. In it, there's no gain or loss. One instant is 10,000 years. There is no here, no there. Infinity is right before your eyes. The tiny is as large as the vast when objective boundaries have vanished. The vast is as small as the tiny when you don't have limits. Being is an aspect of non-being, and non-being is no different from being. Until you understand this truth, you won't see anything clearly. One is all are one. When you realize this, what reason for holiness or wisdom? The mind of absolute trust is beyond all thought, all striving, is perfectly at peace. For in it, there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. So I invite you now to just completely, totally relax into this present moment. Opening your heart and your mind to all that this present moment entails right now. Being open and receptive to the wisdom that dwells within each and every one of us. To be open and receptive to that peace that is truly beyond understanding. My friends, it's within each and every one of you. It is something that we can tap into at any time. So I invite you now to let's just spend just a little bit of time in the silence. So we bring our attention back to this place, this time, and we allow our hearts to just be filled with gratitude. Gratitude for that peace beyond understanding that is always here for us, that we can tap into at any time. So loving Holy Spirit, help us as we go forth this week to be the peace in the world that we're looking for. Because a world of peace will only come about by people who have found peace within themselves. And for this truth, we say thank you, loving Spirit, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, David. That was a very uplifting talk. I know that Eckhart Tolle's book is one of our important books that we have on our bookshelf. And for me, myself, the way I get to that certain place is when I'm sitting in my backyard and I just watch all the life that's around there, and hours will pass. It's awesome.
It is.
Thank you so much. I also would like to thank Mike and the musicians, because there, in my opinion, are our two angels. And also, I'd like to thank Liam and Carol for the work that they do in helping us broadcast our message.
So at this time, let us take to heart our vision, mission, and statement of being, which is shown on the screen.
We have a global vision, and will you please speak it with me? Our vision is a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening.
And we have a sacred mission. Will you say that with me? We inspire and empower spiritual growth to awaken us and transform the world.
And we have a personal statement of being. Will you please say that with me? I am a dynamic center of the Christ light, mighty to unfold my good and radiate that good to all. For those of you who are joining us online, you are invited to join Tammy Maxon on our Conversations with the Speaker. We have a Zoom link at noon today. Tammy will facilitate a lively discussion on today's message.
And we're not going to have conversations today in the back room, but there are refreshments back there, water and some refreshments, which you're We would love for you to just go back there and spend a little bit of time in fellowship. But today, we are looking for people who are interested in learning how to operate our AV system. And so for those people who are so inclined, Liam is going to be giving a class so that I want to make sure, we all want to make sure that everybody, that someone here knows how to run all of this. So that's what we're working on. And I will be there. I'm gonna be there. So that's the reason we're not going to be doing conversations, because a few of us are going to be over there learning how to operate this whole system. Primarily because Liam and Carol are going to be taking off for the holidays for about a month, and so we're going to have to come and learn pretty quick.
And I'll be joining you too over there, David.
Yeah.
A little update on the outreach clothing drive. We've been very successful in accumulating a large number of clothes that we're going to be giving away. And I want to take this moment to thank the members of the outreach team, which is Donna Barkowski. I hope I pronounced that right. Carol Ann, I think there's Carol Ann. I myself am on there. And the one other person that isn't here today that can't join us because he's not feeling well is
Ken
Ken.
Hart. Yeah, Ken, right.
Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and wow, y'all did a great job. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw it right before we took the box, but that box, it's a huge box, and it was overflowing. And so thank you all for your efforts to do that. Thank you so much. Also, I want to announce that we are having a candlelight service on Monday, December the 20th, and it'll be at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be a lovely service, and so please put it on your calendars. We'd love to see you here.
And I want to remind you that our prayer chaplain, again, is Monica, and she is a great person for giving prayers. I know that the many times that she and I have joined together in prayers has been very inspiring for myself.
So again, join us join people in the back for refreshments, and we thank you so much for being here today.
We have a love offering box near the foyer at the door, offering envelopes and pens where you can drop in your tithe and love offerings as you leave the chapel. Again, thank you and bless you all for your loving and generous support.
And we have created so many different ways for you to donate, and you can find that on our website. And for those of you here today at our live service, for safety concerns, again, we have that box there. So all of our programs, all of our classes, they are made possible by your generous donations. So we do thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So let me invite you now to stand, and let's open our hearts and minds in gratitude as we close by speaking out loud or silently to ourselves our love offering prayer.
Our offering prayer is on the screen, as you can see. Divine love in me and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And our prayer for protection, I will say the first part, and if you would respond, the light of God surrounds us. I am light.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am love.
The power of God protects us.
I am power.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am presence.
And wherever we are, God is.
I am divine.
And my friends, you are. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful week.